Hello, welcome again to Steve's Vintage Model Builds, where I'm continuing today with a wrap-up of our Japan trip. Excuse me. And I promised in the first video that there would be a rant. Not sure if I'm going to call it a rant though. I think it's more of an excoriation. And also, people may have noticed, every day here seems to be a bad hair day for me. I don't know, it doesn't seem to matter what I do. I use conditioner. I avoid hairspray because that attracts mosquitoes. And if you've ever had a mosquito bite on your head, you'll know it's no fun. There's only a couple other places to have mosquito bites where it is less fun. So, but fortunately, at this time of year, the mosquitoes aren't too bad, and you know we're in a city area, so flies and so forth aren't that bad. I also, regrettably, my phone has gone wonky, and I'm afraid it's near the end of its useful existence, shall we say. I ordered a new one. It was delivered to our house in Canada, and a neighbor picked it up. Of course, it was through Amazon. So, anyways, I'm doing my best with it, but with the it didn't want to record. Anyways, please indulge me even more than usual on the quality of my videos that I'll put up. I'm going to post the Tamiya one. Again, that'll have to be in 2 parts because the phone stopped recording and I had to. Anyways, so. But before we get on to the excoriation, I just wanted to go over a couple more details. The thumbnail for this video is Japanese style omelette, and we had a very delicious one at the Shizuoka, Shizuoka station, and the place was called Salon de Oeuf et Moi. For those who don't speak French, basically it means well, I want to say house, but that's maison, but it's the same kind of thing. House of eggs and meat. So there you go. They call it omu rice, and it's a classic Japanese dish. And what it is beautifully constructed, prepared omelette, and inside is a very popular and almost ubiquitous Japanese style rice, which is ketchup rice, and it's made, as you might guess, with ketchup, and it's a very light, mild seasoning. Gives just a little bit of tang and a nice color. So yeah, so we enjoyed that, and mine came with excuse me, Esther had a souffle, but mine came with a side salad and a little shrimp salad. Had 2 pieces of shrimp, 2 shrimps, whole shrimp, with broccoli and some dressing, along with rigatoni, macaroni and cheese, and the omelet itself. And also, as I had mentioned, you know, a little, they called it a Danish, but it was more of a croissant, shaped like a, yeah, anyways, I mentioned that before. I also noted in the comment, or in the description on the last video, pork is king in Japan. there's a lot of fish, especially things like herring and mackerel and that kind of stuff. Um, but pork is king. Ham pork, they call it pork ham. All sorts of different kinds of pork. So if you're not a fan of pork, you'll have to look for other options, which especially, in like fast food restaurants, what Japanese fast food restaurants, and the convenience stores and station shops. That's that's going to be highly prominent. One thing they have as well, they call it onigiri, and basically it's handheld. It's sushi in your hand. It's sushi rice, often with all sorts of different fillings. Um, Everything from smoked salmon, again, to herring, octopus, all sorts of different things, and then wrapped in the seaweed, and it's kind of like triangular. And I tried the salmon one. It was really delicious, and an easy way just for a handheld snack. You can eat it on the go. And a little bit more about manners. In the hotels we stayed at, it wasn't a thing, except probably in the Japanese style rooms. But you're often expected to leave your shoes outside the door and not wear them into the room. So that's something to keep in mind. And it never hurts to ask at the desk when you check in if you should do that. But of course, it would be easy to deduce when you get to your room and you see everybody's shoes out in the hallway. So again, that's manners that should be respected. So that's about it as far as, and the card keys that I mentioned. Peter Oxley was good enough to let me know that over in Europe and the UK, the slipping, the little slot beside the door for the lights and so forth is fairly common there. It's been a long time since I used hotels in Asia, and the last time they didn't have that. And of course, I'd never been to Japan, so they may have had it for quite some time. Haven't seen it for various reasons. After the heart attack in 2015, I wasn't able to travel, and then there was a very short window. I wasn't allowed to travel for well. I could travel. The doctor said I was well enough to travel, but I wasn't able to obtain out-of-country health insurance. So, but anyways, I'm totally healthy now. I had no problems getting the health insurance. It was a little more expensive because of my history, but certainly not unreasonable. Excuse me. And yeah, so over here in the colonies, in the hotels that we've stayed at, I hadn't experienced that. And here in the Philippines, as I said, we normally stay with family. So hadn't run into that here too. It might be the case here. I don't know. Speaking of the Philippines, I posted a few videos, again, having problems with the camera and the phone. But I think for most folks, especially in my demographic, if you're going to go to the Philippines, probably your best bet is to go to one of the resorts. Places like Palawan and so forth, islands in the Visayas have beautiful resorts, beautiful beaches. Boracay, which actually they had a huge disaster there, and they pretty much had to shut the whole place down because they had overbuilt and not put in place proper sewage infrastructure and so on and so forth. So they had to shut the whole place down. It's now reopened, and both Palawan and Boracay are among the most beautiful places in the world. But again, they're beach resorts, so there you go. For those who are younger and more adventurous, yeah, go for it. It's a lot of fun. The people are really nice. They're wonderful. I would try to stick to the larger towns and cities, unless you have family, friends, or whatever that you can stay with and who can guide you. And I would totally avoid farther south. In Mindanao. The Philippines is about 96% Roman Catholic, or at least people say they are, and most people practice on one level or another. There are a few other Christian denominations, and one fairly large cult. I'll leave that up to others to do their research on that. Further south in Mindanao, the balance of the population is the M people, and I would not recommend traveling there. There's a lot of problems. They had there's a lot of problems with terrorism, lawlessness, kidnap for ransom. So again, I would avoid that, and, unless you're very confident in the people you're going to be staying with and so forth. On a personal note, making this video, I realized my wattle. I should probably do something about that, but I'm not that vain. Christmas time's coming, so hopefully no one will confuse me for a turkey, although I've been called one many times, along with other names. But anyways, so enough of that. Now, the excoriation. When Esther decided or expressed the desire to come to the Philippines this year for Christmas, it was actually supposed to be last year, but her sister that's here became deathly ill, extremely ill, and so Esther came over along with her twin for moral support and so on and so forth. She was very ill, and we were very concerned. She's now fully recovered though. But anyway, so that trip, especially at the last minute, kind of blew the budget on things. Although we could have, but yeah, we decided to leave it till this year. So anyways, Esther decided or proposed, same thing, that we come here for, actually she wanted to come for 6 weeks, but I managed to trim it down to 5 weeks. And my part of the deal was, okay, if we're going to be there, if we're going to be here for that long, I want to take a side trip over to Japan for the 2 bucket list things, which were to ride the Shinkansen and visit Tamiya head office, which got both those things done, and very happy about that. And also got some great pictures and of Fujiyama. Also, this time of year, the weather's a lot like where we are in Canada, on Vancouver Island, and so the cooler weather was certainly quite refreshing. Not that I don't mind the heat. I don't tolerate it as well after the heart attack or as I've grown older. But there's air conditioning everywhere, etc., etc. But yeah, it was quite refreshing to go out into the cool air, and it wasn't really cold. The family members who took the tour to Tokyo and environs and Disney, when they went to it was the first time they'd ever experienced cool, cold weather, and when they went to went to Mount Fuji with their tour, it was -4 Celsius. And so they found that to be quite a shock. We had advised them they're going to need winter type jackets, and we had brought them all gloves as a gift, because we knew, keep your hands warm. Then yeah, so there you go. Okay, so that was the deal. We're going to go to Japan for a week, instead of making a whole separate trip, although we may do that again at another time. And part of that too was that Esther insisted on us taking the same airline at the same time with the family, flying to and from Tokyo. And I thought that was okay, no big deal. We can certainly do that. In hindsight, though, we would have traveled to and from the airport together, but we would have flown into Haneda instead and taken a different airline. And by the time I'm finished here, you'll know why. All right, so to begin the tale of woe, so I went ahead and I booked on Expedia, as we book almost all of our travel on, and the airline was a Filipino airline, and it's named Cebu, CEBU Pacific, Pacific, Cebu Pacific. Remember this name, and never, ever, ever fly this airline. So I went ahead, I booked on Expedia, and the price was cheap, which makes my accountant wife happy. And so it was only $800 or $900 return for both of us, but it flew into Narita, which is more than an hour by express train into Tokyo, and quite a bit longer, depending on traffic, if you take a bus or car. And if you take a taxi, you can expect to spend $300 or $400 doing that. So if you do fly into Narita, book the Narita express train to get into Tokyo. Unless you're fortunate enough to have a car service that can pick you up. Those days are gone for me, but if you have that, certainly use it. Okay, so and to start with, the outgoing flight was at 6:15 in the morning, which of course meant we had to get to the airport very early, and the return flight was at 7:45 p.m. Which ended up being late, but I'll get to that. And arriving, just after midnight. And then from Manila, it was, it's an additional hour and a half to get where we are here down in Binyan / San Pedro Laguna province. Which, it's okay. I mean, we, as I mentioned, one of our nephews is an air traffic controller who works at Manila Airport, Ninoy Aquino International Airport. And so the other nephew, or one of the other nephews, Ralph, he drove up with the car, and then we met. Actually, no, it was on a. Yeah, it was Sunday night, Monday morning. So Ron was off, and so he came down to Binyan, and he drove us up, and then he kept the car for the week while we were there. And actually, a big Kia SUV seated all of us. And so he kept that for the week, and then on our return, he was able to take enough time off work to come pick us up at the airport, and then he drove back to his place of work at the air traffic control tower, and then Ralph took over again, and back we came to Binyan. So that worked out really well. In any case, so yes, so I went on Expedia and I booked the flight on Cebu Pacific. We thought we were really fortunate to be able to get on the same flight as them. And anytime Esther's happy, I'm happy. So that's that. One of the biggest mistakes of my life that didn't involve bodily injury. So, they're a ultra low discount airline, and with no free baggage. So I figured, okay, well, whatever. We didn't know how much baggage we'd want to bring. I figured we'd just bring one extra check bag for stuff we might pick up in Japan, and I figured it would be simple. Nope. To back up a little bit, our flight, we took WestJet from Vancouver Island to Vancouver. It's only about a 30-minute flight. And again, I wasn't sure how many bags we were going to be bringing. For such a short flight, didn't bother with business class or premium or whatever. It's a Dash 8. What's business class on a Dash 8 for a 30-minute flight? Not worth twice the price. And so I figured, okay, well, again, we'll add our bags later. With the premium economy that I did select, we got one free check bag each, up to 23 kilos. And as I said, I figured simple enough to add other bags. And yeah, so we ended up with 4, and I had to pay for 2. It's no big deal. Went online, went direct to the WestJet site, added the 2 bags, paid for them, which was quite reasonable. They were about, I think, $55 each. So, but anyways, yeah. So, that's not unreasonable. And and then when of course we flew China Airlines, which I can't say enough good stuff about. They're out of Taipei, Taiwan, so they're not Chinese. But the Chinese won't let them call it something other than, they won't let it call it Taiwan Airlines, as everybody knows. Well, probably the people who are going to be watching this channel know that the CCP is really difficult about things like that, and they don't like it being called Taiwan. They think it's part of China, but I'm not going to go into that whole history. For a while, actually, it was a Japanese colony, and to briefly go into the history, after the war and the Chinese Revolution, the nationalists fled to Taiwan, which at the time was called Formosa. Well, I'm not going to get into all that. So anyways, it's been a long time since it was actually part of China. And anyways, after Mao took over and started killing millions of his own people, he was too busy with that to worry about Taiwan at the time. But they've since come back to it. They have very long memories, and the saying goes that the round eyes, that's us, may have watches, but we have time, and they have longer memories than elephants. So Anyways, so enough of that. So, anyways, yeah, we flew China Airlines. Fabulous, just fabulous. Price was very reasonable. Meals were great and frequent. We even got a meal on our. It wasn't a direct flight. You have to fly into Taipei, which we've done before, and I've done before. Tell another story about that sometime. Um, and then but it's just enough time to change planes and off to Manila, and we even got a meal on that short flight, which was only about 2.5 hours. So, and the food was really good, service was great, plane was excellent. We flew business class, and so it was very nice. Unfortunately, we were it was in business class. It was a 2-2-2 configuration, and we were in the middle two, so we didn't have window seats. No big deal. We sleep most of the time, anyways. Um, yeah, I can't say enough about China Airlines. And if you're ever traveling to Asia, certainly, when I first started flying to Asia, I usually flew Cathay Pacific, and when I did business travel, it would depend on what the company wanted, but it was never Air Canada. It was always usually an Asian-based airline. So, but yeah, Cathay Pacific was my go-to, but their home base is Hong Kong, and I won't go there anymore. So there you go. It's really deteriorated. The family here went there again to Hong Kong Disneyland. Um, and yeah, it's really deteriorated. It's not the city state that it was under when it was under lease to the British, and it's really just gone downhill. So I won't go there anymore. So yeah, so Taipei is an excellent choice. And, well, what the heck, I might as well tell the story. Okay, so in 1999, I had come over to the Philippines, and I was flying, actually, I can't remember what I was flying. That's part of the heart attack I had. It wasn't China Airlines, and actually, yeah, it was Cathay Pacific. So anyways, so we took off, and there was a typhoon. A really bad typhoon, and it was so bad we couldn't fly into Hong Kong, and we had to divert and land in Taipei, and which is inconvenient, but it's better than dying because they tried to fly through a typhoon. And so we landed, and that was back in the days when there was no problem. The airline paid for our hotel and our transportation to the hotel, and we got vouchers for our meals, etc., etc., etc. So we ended up staying there about a day and a half, and then it was the eye of the typhoon, so they gathered us all up and shuttled us off, and we all boarded the aircraft. We started to taxi out, and then the pilot announced that he wasn't going to try it. So we go. I guess it was okay. It was still very heavy rain, and over there they call it black rain. And when it's at its worst, it's actually sideways rain, not like this, but like this. But yeah, they call it black rain because visibility is the rain is so heavy and so bad you can't see anything, even if it's what's supposed to be full daylight. So anyway, so back we go. Same hotel, same routine, people were inconvenienced, but I wasn't in any hurry to get back to work. Um, so yeah. Anyway, so then the next day again, we stayed the night, and in the morning they shuttled us back, and we got on the aircraft, and we started to taxi out, and then again, plane stopped. Announcement came on. Pilot's not going to try it. Back we go. So back we go, and you know, a lot of people were grumbling and mumbling, and oh, this is so terrible, and blah, blah, blah. But what can you do? I mean, you know, it's so. Anyway, so back to the hotel we go, and got all back checked in and everything. And a few hours later, I was watching the news. A Singapore Airlines flight had tried to take off, and the visibility was so bad they went down the wrong runway when it was under construction, and they drove right into a whole bunch of heavy construction equipment at the end of the runway, and I think about 180 people died, and it was a horrific crash. And one, I think, probably the worst in Singapore Airlines history, which is a great airline, one of the best in the world. But yeah, it was horrible. So when the pilot says the pilot's not going to do something, I'm down with it. No questions asked. Okay, that's their job, and if the pilot's not going to do it, that's okay with me. I'm not going to mumble and grumble because 9 times out of 10 I know I'm going to get there safely. You know, the pilots know, and seasoned travelers will know. Pilots earn their pay on takeoff and landing. Not that they don't do anything when they're in the air, but you know, especially on long haul flights. But that's where they earn their pay. And if the pilot for any reason says they're not going to go, I don't mind that. And so don't give them or the airline a hard time. So that's all I got to say about that. All right, so back to Cebu Pacific. All right, so we had no problems adding our baggage online direct with WestJet after booking with Expedia. And so anyway, so then we get there, and we get here, and we decided that we'd want to bring one bag to Japan. So I go online to the Cebu Pacific website, excuse me, and clicked on the add-ons, which is for baggage and food orders and so forth, and entered our itinerary number, or you know, our whatever, the confirmation number, whatever they call it, the 6-letter designation, whatever it is, and the name, and it came up, well, you booked with an agency, Expedia, so you have to go to the agency. Okay, so I go to Expedia, same process. Oh, now they told me I have to book with the airline direct. Catch 22. So I go back to Cebu Pacific, and I get on the chat, and I answered 15 stupid questions from the chat bot, and finally got the message, okay, I'll transfer you to a live agent. Great. So I get transferred. Then I get the message. There's 500 people in the queue. Please try again later. Not wait. Please try again later. Which I did after going through the same stupid process numerous times. We're getting the same result. And then finally, Finally, I got into the live queue. And I was person number 435. All right? Yeah. I'm not doing anything. Put the phone down beside me. Picked up the phone, looked at it. Okay. Now I'm at $3.99. Picked up the phone again. $3.75. Great. At least we're moving. Picked up the phone again. I've been kicked out. Now, I'm a patient man. Sometimes too patient. But in any case, I'm a patient man. So I went, okay, all right, this didn't work. So I'll give them a call. Got the number off their website. And the number, the message, unable to complete your call. Okay. Now bear in mind, this is a Philippines this is a Philippines-based airline. Their head office is in Manila. Okay. And so as always, when I'm here, I ran to our brilliant tech person, nephew Ralph, and I said, I'm trying to make this call and to Cebu Pacific in Manila, and it won't go through. I keep getting the message that whatever, your call can't be completed. And so he said, oh, well, all right, okay, Uncle, give me the number. So I give him the number, and he looks at it, and he says, oh, Uncle, this is in Australia. The number 2 call center capital of the world outside of India is the Philippines. And their call center is in Australia? Excuse me? Yeah. Anyways, enough of that. I wasn't going to buy a long-distance phone card and waste a bunch of time on the phone, probably waiting behind 499 other people, probably to get an unsatisfactory answer. So I go back to the website, and I submit their contact form. Here's my problem. This is what I'd like to do. Can someone send me a link or whatever you need to do so that I can add my one bag? And I got the automatic message back saying, thank you for your inquiry. We'll respond in 24 to 48 hours. So I wait 72 hours with no response. So I go back on, submit a second form. This is my second request, blah, 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 blah. Same message comes back, of course. I never did get a response of any type other than the automated one. So I just gave up, and I said, oh, okay, I'll do it when we get to the airport. And so we get to the airport. Oh, and in the meantime, I checked in, as usual, 48 hours ahead of time. Oh, that's the other thing about China Airlines. They have an automatic check-in, and you can do it up to 72 hours before your trip, and you just enter your information, and they automatically check you in for your outbound as well as your return flight. So that was easy. I don't know if that's just a business class thing or what, but anyways, that was very nice. I didn't need to, get up in the middle of the night, 48 hours before, to do it myself. So yeah, that was fabulous. Okay, so I checked in for Cebu Pacific, and went through the check-in process, and it displayed our seat row numbers, all that stuff. And so then I went to print our boarding passes, and it said, it was unable to print our boarding passes, and then we should do that when we get to the airport. Okay. Just one more little step. We'd have to go to the counter anyways to check the bag that I wasn't able to check in online. So anyway, so we get to the airport, and we go to the self-serve kiosk to print our boarding pass. Do the thing, go through the process, success, great. Boarding pass didn't print. Well, there was an assistant there, an agent or whatever from Cebu Pacific. Came over, said, we did this. It said it was successful, but it didn't print. Oh, okay. So he opens up the back of the thing, make sure there's paper there, which there was, yes. And so then he did it. Took the passport, did the thing. Everybody knows the drill who travels. Still didn't print. Apologies for that brief interruption there. I'm in the spare room here at my brother-in-law's house, and excuse me, they use it for storage, so somebody had to come in. Anyway, so all right, so here we are, and I'm at the airport, and so I go line up at the counter, which I was going to have to do anyways to check the bag. And so I get to the agent. The process was fairly quick. It wasn't a huge lineup. We were there in plenty of time, so it was early. And so anyway, so I get to the agent, and so I explained that I had to check in and pay for this bag because I wasn't able to do it online, and told her my tale of woe. And she was like, oh. Anyways, she called somebody over from Cebu Pacific, and a nice young guy. He was a baggage guy, actually, or he was part of the baggage department, but I guess he was responsible for these kind of problems. And I said, and I I told him what had happened and what I wanted to do. And he said, oh, okay. He said, what we'll do is we'll check the bag and we'll give you new boarding passes, and you'll just have to go over to the cashier and pay he told me 1,300 pesos, which is about $12 Canadian. Not excessive in any way. Because I was ready to fight. I was ready to say, because I knew there would be an extra charge. But if and I said, I want the online price because it's not my fault. I couldn't check it in online. So yeah, okay. So anyway, so they got it all done. I went over to the cashier, and the cashier says 1,400 pesos, and I said, the guy told me 1,300. And she looked at me with that look we've all had from usually bureaucrats who don't give a rat's butt. She gave me that look and said, 1,400. Okay, 100 pesos. Not even $3. I'm not going to die over that. So I paid the 1,400 pesos. Now, when I had asked the guy, I said, before we even went over, I said, can I check the bag for the return flight? Oh no, we can only do same day. Okay. And I said, so I'll have to go through the same procedure at Narita when we come back. Yes, sir. Okay. Inconvenient, but like I said, I'm a patient man, and if we have to do that, we have to do that. Okay, so yeah, so I paid the money, and the bag was already gone. It had already been, and so then we get to boarding, and the boarding process was okay. It was no big deal. A lot of people. It was an Airbus 330 Neo, so probably about 400 people, maybe more. I'm not sure. Depends on the configuration, which I'm going to talk about next. So we get on the plane. Get to our row. There is no business class, and of course I couldn't select my seat ahead of time. Same problem as with the baggage. But the seats were okay. They were about halfway into the plane. Not a big deal. And actually, they were good enough. Esther's a little older than I am, so we got priority boarding, and I look like a senior too. So yeah, so we got priority boarding. So no problem getting our carry-on stuff, which I will again discuss in a moment. Put up into the bins. So in addition to no free baggage, the website says you're allowed one carry-on, maximum 7 kilos, which really isn't much considering that the carry-on probably weighs 2 kilos, maybe a bit less. Anyways, plus a personal item. Okay, fine. So that's what we did. The carry-on size was smaller than the standard carry-on size, just like for the check bag, instead of 23 kilos, it was maximum 20 kilos. Excuse me. But we, I do the research, and we had everything all in order and everything, so that was fine. So okay, yeah. So we had priority boarding, so we had no problem with space in the bins, and so forth. And I sit down. Standard seat, the regular width or whatever that you get in most economy. I'm not a big guy, so it's not an issue for me, and same with Esther. Although I wonder how they, I wonder how, I weigh about 180 pounds, but I wonder how they enforce the 7 kilo rule for people who weigh 220, 250 pounds, of which there were some. Anyways, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not going to go into that any further. All right, so we sit down, and like everybody does, and I always do, you look up, you look around. Oh. First thing I notice is no air vent. The little thing. No air vent. And light, you either had to stand up to turn it on, or get something to poke it with. In addition, there was no attendant light. So if you wanted to be attended, you had to get up and wave and gesticulate and whatever, hoping to get someone's attention. Okay. So, it settled in, and, looking around. Okay. There's a charging port, which is always nice. The light was on, which meant it was functioning, I thought. But it didn't function until we started taxiing. And then when we were in flight, it stopped functioning. Oh, which brings me to the other thing. Among other things to bring about Japan, it's really difficult to find trash bins when you're out and about. Obviously, at the train stations and things like that. But if you're out on the street or whatever, there's no public trash bins. So it's of course you can't litter. Shouldn't do that anyways, but especially in Japan, that'll land you in jail. So bring a little bag where you can put your trash until you find a trash bin. So there was that. There we go. We're on the plane, and it took off on time. So I have to say that. And the cabin crew was very pleasant. They were very nice. Um, I wasn't able to pre-order a meal, and wasn't really interested in what they had available at the time. So, but I brought sandwiches and so that was fine. So the plane took off on time, and we landed on time and in one piece, which is always a good thing. Baggage was no problem. Collecting the baggage once we were off the plane, and the rest of the family we didn't get to sit together, for one thing, which was fine. And of course they were on a tour, so when they got off the plane, they went off with their tour people, and we took our bags and headed towards the Narita Express to Tokyo. Oh, and the seats didn't recline. And they had the unmitigated gall to put in one of the announcements that for our comfort, the seats were preset, which was upright, and so at that point, all I could do was laugh. Crying came later. Okay, so we get to Japan, and from the first video, which I'll link everything together, we had a wonderful time. I did my 2 bucket list things, rode the Shinkansen, and visited the Tamiya headquarters, as well as we went up to Mount Fuji. This time of year, well, you don't really go direct to Mount Fuji. In the summertime, you can go there, but it's mostly geared towards hikers and climbers, and in the wintertime, it's mostly skiers. So, and to take pictures, you don't want to be right there anyways. It's better to be farther back so you can see the whole thing. And of course, November, December, January is the best time to see Mount Fuji. Otherwise, it's just like a big brown pimple. But at this time of year, it has snow on it, and it's very beautiful, just like you see in everywhere, in pictures and movies and so forth. And we had some very nice meals, and just had a wonderful experience overall. And as I said in the first video, can't get over how wonderful the people were. Everybody was just fabulous. Everyone went out of their way to help us if we needed help, and everyone was so polite, courteous. I'd go again in a heartbeat. So anyone thinking of, Peter Oxley had made a comment on my first video that was very interesting, and that he might be interested to go. And I would certainly encourage anyone who is interested in travel to visit Japan. Just a fabulous experience, and if you do it right, it's not super expensive. As I said, both of our hotels were under $200 Canadian a night, and the Hotel Asocia in Shizuoka was a first-class hotel. I think in the first video I mentioned that it was a 5-star hotel. The restaurants were 5 stars. The hotel is 4 stars, and both of the hotels had Japanese-style rooms, which you're expected to leave your shoes outside the door. So anyway, we had a wonderful time, and our last day had the omni-rice, which was the omelette meal, and Esther had the souffle, and excuse me a moment. It was right in the station, so we got the Shinkansen back to Tokyo, and walked across the station. And it wasn't too bad, although Esther because she severed her Achilles tendon a few years ago, and the first doctor was rather negligent. She ended up having to have surgery, and it's back to about 80%. But walking is difficult for her, and when hurts me when she's hurt. But anyways, we got to the got back to the Narita Express. We got on the Narita Express, and off we went. We got to the airport, and we were early. And it's a good thing we were, because there was a ridiculously massive line of people trying to check in. And of course, I had to go to the counter because I had to check and pay for my bag, or our bag, which was now full of stuff under 20 kilos. Made sure of that. And so anyway, so again, go through the line and wind and wind and wind. And about halfway through, I noticed there was a service desk for Cebu Pacific, which no one really seemed to be at. So I figured I'd go over. What have I got to lose, right? Go and talk to them, say this is what I got to do. In Manila, we had to go the other place to the cashier to do it. Voila. So anyways, so I go and I explained to the lady what I needed to do and what had happened in Manila. And she said, oh sure, it's no problem. 9,000 yen, which is about $83 Canadian. And I said, well, in Manila, they told me it would be the same procedure, and they only charged me 1,400 pesos. Same blank look from bureaucrats who don't care. 9,000 yen. Okay, all right. You still have to go to the counter. We did manage to print our boarding passes in Narita. So we had that. So anyway, so we wind through the whole line and get up there. And it turns out that in Manila, it's Cebu Pacific staff. But at Narita, it's Swissport that handles things. The lady at the service desk, she was Filipino. But the check-in people and the baggage, all that kind of stuff, that's all handled by Swissport. And the gentleman was very nice, and so I explained to him, I said, I have to check this and pay for it. The only good thing about it was I could pay directly there. I didn't have to meander off to a cashier someplace. It was right there. Just, you're done. And so, in a last-ditch effort, I said, can you give me a little bit of a break? And he was actually, he was nice. He was nice about it. And I know it's not his fault. So, anyways, he said, I wish I could, but I can't. So, I paid. Because at this point, all I want to do is just get home. Almost time to start crying. Anyways, so so that got done, and then off we go. We got our boarding passes, and we went to the gate, which of course, being a super discount airline, was like 3 miles away. Again, hurting my heart because Esther's struggling, and I asked her if she wanted a wheelchair. No, I'm gonna, okay, stubborn little girl. Anyways, so yeah. So we get to the gate, and the family was already there, and Ralph comes up and says, so I look over here at gate 96, but they're sitting over here at gate 97. And I'm like, well, what's up? You're supposed to be at gate 96. Flight's delayed. Now, that happens on various airlines. Oh, that's the other thing. I have to back up a little bit. So when we get to go to the check-in line, there's little signs taped up, and it now says that it's 7 kilos for your carry-on bag and your personal item combined. And I'm like, what the? And so anyways, if they'd given me a hard time about that, I just would have said, well, that's not what your website says, and I don't give a rat's butt. But again, I don't want to be on somebody's no-fly list, so I hold my temper, which raises my blood pressure, like it does most people. So anyways, so we get to the gate, and yeah, so Ralph says, yeah, flight's delayed. About an hour. I'm not going to ding him on that, because that can happen on any airline, even the best of them. So, anyways. So, okay, well, that at least gives me time to go back down to the duty free. At which, I got this. It's Suishin Tokai no Akibono Sake. Japanese sake from Japan in a nice wooden box. There you go. It was quite reasonable, actually. And I also got Akashi Oloroso Sherry Cask Finish Single Malt Japanese Whiskey, aged 7 years. I know, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. I'm a 7 years guy. I'm just a regular guy. Okay. So, anyways, the distillery was founded in 1888, and this is, I think, 500 mils, and this is 300 mils, and Canada only allows you 1 liter, anyways. So that was fine. I think the two combined, it was only about $80. So, yeah, not bad considering airport. And but yeah, worth it for me. But then I remembered the sign. Combined weight, blah blah. Anyways, to heck with that. So rather than trying to carry on with the duty-free bag, fortunately, I had left sufficient room in my carry-on bag, and I guess at that point, I figured at that point, you know, nobody's going to weigh my carry-on. So, anyways, I stuffed them in there and folded up the bag carefully, and off we went. Then we get another notice: flight's delayed more. Just about 30 minutes more, but, you know, just continuing to add insult to injury. Okay, so finally, boarding begins, which, unlike in Manila, was pretty chaotic. They didn't call group numbers. They called it by seat numbers, so everybody was all lined up on both sides. And then they called, you know, for people who need assistance, young children, all that kind of stuff. And we did not get priority boarding this time. Excuse me. But fortunately, our rows were, after the priority boarding people, it was, I think, rows 1 to 17, and then our row was number 37. It's only a 4.5-hour flight, so, you know, I'm not going to get all stressed out about that. Anyways, so we find our seats, row 37, against the bulkhead, right beside the lavatory. And you know what that's like? If you've ever had that experience, the entire flight. for 4.5 hours. Anyways, to finish up, we're a little over an hour here, and I hope you've enjoyed my little rant. And I'm sure a lot of you are laughing about it and laughing at me, which I got used to a long time ago. But I can tell you, this was not a situation where, I will laugh about it later. As a matter of fact, today in my email, I got from Cebu Pacific a customer satisfaction feedback form. Boy, did I ever give it to them. Anyways, yeah, and I let them know pointedly that one of our dearest friends here is an executive vice president of land development lending for Land Bank of the Philippines, and they very wisely use Philippine Airlines (PAL) for most of their travel, for as far as I know, all of their travel, unless PAL isn't going there. But they have an awful lot of employees. It's a huge bank. It's the biggest bank in the Philippines, and they have a lot of employees who may be inclined to fly Cebu Pacific, and I made it clear that I was going to be letting everyone know about the horrific experience that I had. So, anyways, after being late, we did take off, and we did land safely in one piece. Baggage claim wasn't too bad. So we got our bags, and by that time it was 3:30 in the morning. We were supposed to arrive at 12:30, but we didn't get in and get our bags and everything until about 3:30 in the morning. Ron was there to pick us up, and we took him back. We dropped him off at his at the place where he gets the shuttle to go in. To go to the control tower, and then Ralph took over, and we drove back. Very, very glad to be back. So anyway, so that's my tale of woe, and never, ever, ever, if it ever comes up, ever, 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 ever fly Cebu Pacific. I would rather swim. Some older folks, especially in Canada and the United States, will remember Greyhound bus. And in my younger days, I took a couple of cross-country trips on Greyhound bus, which was a more pleasant experience. And if you've ever had to travel any distance on a Greyhound bus, you will know that's saying something. Never, ever, 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 ever. Don't even consider it. Okay? Don't go or find another airline, whatever it may be. So that's that. So thanks for your time. Thanks everybody. I lost some subscribers. I think maybe because of my opinions on the Middle East. I lost 3 or 4, but now I'm back up to 528. So I gained a few, maybe because of that too. So thanks to all my subscribers. Thanks to all my buddies. Thanks to all my friends. When I get back to Canada, there'll be a very special kit review, something that I picked up while I was in Shizuoka. And I'm going to do my best to stitch together the visit to the video for the visit to the head office. So, that's it. Time for beer. It's a little after 4, and after the last couple of days, I've earned it. We were supposed to go to the farm today, but I wasn't up for it. I was having some chest pain, and I figured it better just to stay home. But feeling great now, and going to get me a couple of Red Horse. Have a really good sleep tonight. Okay, so thanks again to everyone. I really appreciate it. I hope between these two videos, I hope you've been entertained and found things interesting. And again, I can't say enough about the visit to Japan, the people, and just generally everything. It was just fabulous. So if you're contemplating a trip like that, it should be at the top of your list. So thanks again, and we'll be talking to you soon. Bye now.